Dr. Sarah rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. She had been working at the Global Radio Telescope Array for 12 years, and most nights were the same. Stars sent out their quiet signals, planets moved in their paths, and space remained mostly silent. But tonight felt different. The signal came in at exactly 11:47 p.m. At first, Sarah thought it might be another false alarm. Space was full of strange noises that meant nothing. Radio waves bounced around the universe all the time, but this signal was not random. It had a pattern. Sarah sat up in her chair. The pattern repeated every 30 seconds. 3 short beeps, 3 long beeps, 3 short beeps. Then it stopped for 10 seconds. Then it started again. Sarah knew this pattern. Every person on Earth who had studied old communication methods would know it. It was SOS in Morse code. But SOS signals did not come from deep space. Ships in trouble on Earth's oceans used SOS. Spacecraft around Earth had better ways to call for help. This signal was coming from much farther away. Sarah checked the computer readings 3 times. The signal was coming from the direction of the closest star to Earth. Sarah called her supervisor, Dr. James Miller. His sleepy voice answered the phone after 4 rings. "This better be important," Dr. Miller said. "Sir, I think you need to come in right away," Sarah said. "I'm getting an SOS signal from." There was silence on the phone for several seconds. "That's impossible," Dr. Miller said. "Run the analysis again. Check all your equipment. I'll be there in an hour." Sarah had already checked everything twice, but she did it again. The signal was real. It was coming from space, from the direction of 4.2 light-years away, and it was definitely an SOS pattern. When Dr. Miller arrived, he brought 3 other scientists with him. They spent 2 hours checking Sarah's work. They tested every piece of equipment. They ran the signal through every computer program they had. The answer was always the same. Someone or something near was calling for help. "We need to decode more of this signal," Dr. Miller said. "Sarah, call the other telescope stations. Get everyone working on this. If this is real, it's the biggest discovery in human history." Over the next 6 hours, radio telescopes around the world turned toward. The signal was weak, but it was there. Teams of scientists worked to pull more information from the weak radio waves crossing the empty space between stars. Dr. Lisa was the first to find something shocking. Hidden inside the SOS pattern were other signals, numbers, mathematical patterns, and then something that made everyone in the room go quiet. "There are words here," Doctor said, her voice shaking. "Human words, English words." The room fell silent. Sarah felt her heart beating fast. Dr. Miller leaned over Doctor's shoulder to look at her computer screen. "What kind of words?" Dr. Miller asked. "Old ship communication codes," Doctor said. "The kind that sailing ships used hundreds of years ago, before radio, before everything we use now." Sarah remembered something from her history classes. 400 years ago, Earth had sent out its first colony ships to other stars. Big ships with thousands of people, heading to new worlds to build new homes. One of those ships, the Endeavour, had been sent too. But the ship had stopped sending signals 50 years after it left Earth. Everyone assumed it had been destroyed or lost in space. "Could this be from the Endeavour?" Sarah asked. Dr. Miller looked at her with surprise. "The Endeavour was lost centuries ago. Everyone on that ship would be dead by now." "But their children wouldn't be," Sarah said. "And their children's children. If the ship made it too, there could still be people there." The scientists worked for 3 more days to decode the full message. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. The message was not just an SOS. It was a cry for help from people who had been suffering for a very long time. The decoded message told a terrible story. The Endeavour had reached a planet near. The colonists had started to build a new home, but they were not alone on the planet. Another species lived there, an alien race that the message called the The had captured the human colonists. They forced the humans to work in mines, digging metals and minerals from deep under the ground. The work was dangerous. Many humans died. The aliens did not care. They treated humans like tools, not people. The message said that 50,000 people had come on the Endeavor. Now, only 3,000 were still alive. 4 generations had lived and died as slaves to the aliens thought humans were weak and stupid. They never bothered to find out where the humans came from. The person sending the message was Doctor. He was the great-grandson of one of the original colonists. Doctor was old and sick, but he had managed to fix an old radio transmitter. He knew the aliens would find the radio soon and probably kill him for using it, but he had to try to call for help. The message ended with coordinates for the planet and a desperate plea. Doctor asked anyone who received the message to remember the people of the Endeavor. He said they had tried to be strong, but they needed help. They needed rescue. Sarah looked around the room at the other scientists. Everyone was quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Somewhere near the closest star to Earth, thousands of humans were being kept as slaves. They had been waiting 400 years for rescue. Dr. Miller picked up the secure phone that connected directly to the Earth Defense Council. Sarah knew that everything was about to change. The message would go to every government on Earth within hours, and then the human race would have to decide what to do about it. The signal had traveled 4.2 light years to reach Earth. It had taken over 4 years to get here, crossing the empty space between stars. But now that it had arrived, Sarah knew the response would be much faster. The message from Doctor reached the highest levels of Earth's government within 12 hours. President Maria Santos sat in the emergency council chamber, surrounded by leaders from every major nation on Earth and the outer colonies. The decoded transmission played through the room's speakers for the 3rd time. General Robert Hayes, head of Earth Defense, stood at the front of the room. His face was grim as he explained what the intelligence teams had learned. "The signal is definitely real," General Hayes said. "We've confirmed the transmission came from the 442B system near. Our deep space monitors picked up the same signal from multiple angles. This is not a fake." Admiral Lisa, commander of the Earth Fleet, activated a holographic display. It showed a map of known space around Earth. Red dots marked human colonies. A yellow dot showed where the Endeavor's colonists were trapped. "The Endeavor launched in 2157, Admiral said. It carried 50,000 colonists to establish humanity's first settlement near. We lost contact 50 years into the mission. We thought they were dead." Dr. Elizabeth Park, Earth's top expert on alien life, stood up. "According to the message, the aliens call themselves We have no record of this species in our databases, but the transmission gives us important information about them." Dr. Park activated another display. It showed text from Doctor's message, translated into simple language. "They appear to be a species that conquers and enslaves other races," Dr. Park continued. "They use slave labor to strip mine planets for valuable materials. They have been doing this for a long time, probably centuries." President Santos leaned forward. "How many humans are still alive?" "According to the message, fewer than 3,000, Dr. Park said quietly. "Down from 50,000 original colonists. 4 generations have lived and died in slavery." The room fell silent. Many of the leaders looked angry, others looked sick. General Hayes activated a new display. This one showed Earth's current military strength. "They made one important mistake," General Hayes said. "They never investigated where the humans came from. They have no idea what Earth has become in the past 4 centuries." The display showed impressive numbers. Earth now controlled 47 colony worlds. The human population had grown to over 12 billion people spread across dozens of star systems. Earth's technology had advanced far beyond anything the original Endeavour colonists could have imagined. Admiral pointed to images of Earth's warships. Our fastest ships can now travel to in 6 months using quantum drive technology. The Endeavour took over 100 years to make the same journey. What about weapons? Asked Chancellor from the Asian Federation. General Hayes smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. Our current generation of warships carry weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Our Marines are equipped with powered armor and energy weapons. Our orbital bombardment systems can level cities from space. President Santos stood up. The question is not whether we can fight these aliens. The question is whether we should. The room erupted in voices. Leaders spoke over each other, some in anger, some in fear. "Those are our people," shouted Premier Jackson from the African Union. "They've been slaves for 400 years. "We don't know anything about these aliens," said President from the European Federation. "What if they have allies? What if we start a war we can't finish?" Admiral raised her hand for silence. "With respect, Mr. President, we already have all the information we need. These aliens have enslaved our people. They have worked them to death for 4 centuries. There is no negotiation here. There is no diplomatic solution." Dr. Park activated the message again. This time, she played a section that had not been shared before. Doctor's voice, weak and tired, came through the speakers. "They work us until we die," the message said. "Children born here never see freedom. They think we are animals. They break our bones when we move too slowly. They leave us to die when we get sick. Please, if anyone hears this, remember that we were human. Remember that we tried to be strong." The room was completely quiet when the message ended. President Santos looked around the table. "I call for a vote, all in favor of military action to rescue the Endeavour colonists." Every hand in the room went up. The vote was unanimous. General Hayes nodded. "Admiral, how quickly can you assemble a rescue fleet?" "Give me 72 hours, Admiral said. "I want our best ships and our most experienced crews. This won't be a small mission. We're going to bring enough firepower to make sure these aliens never threaten humans again." President Santos turned to Dr. Park. "I want a full analysis of everything we know about the. Find out how they fight, what they value, what scares them. Knowledge is power in this situation." "Already working on it," Dr. Park said. "But from what we can tell, they've never faced a military equal. They're used to conquering primitive species. They've never fought a real war." General Hayes activated a communication system that connected to military bases across human space. "This is General Hayes with Priority Alpha orders. Operation Homecoming is now active. All fleet commanders report to Earth Command within 48 hours. All Marine units prepare for extended deployment. This is not a drill." As the meeting broke up, Admiral stayed behind with President Santos. "Madam President," Admiral said, "there's something else you should know. Word about the message is already spreading through the fleet. Volunteers are pouring in from every human colony. Everyone wants to be part of this mission." President Santos nodded. "Good, let them come. When we arrive I want these aliens to understand exactly what humanity is capable of." Admiral smiled. "They thought they captured a primitive species 400 years ago. They're about to learn how much humanity has grown." In the hours that followed, the largest military mobilization in human history began. Ships that had been patrolling the outer colonies turned toward Earth. Marines who had never seen real combat volunteered for the mission. Engineers worked around the clock to prepare the fleet. The message from Doctor had traveled across the galaxy for over 4 years to reach Earth, but the response would be much faster. And when it arrived they would finally learn what happened when someone enslaved humanity. Admiral Lisa stood on the bridge of the Retribution, Earth's and most powerful dreadnought. Through the large viewing window, she could see the largest fleet ever assembled by humanity. 200 warships floated in formation around Earth's orbital shipyards. Each ship was loaded with the best weapons and technology human science could create. The ships were beautiful and terrible at the same time. The dreadnoughts were massive, each one over 2 kilometers long and carrying enough firepower to destroy entire cities. The smaller cruisers and destroyers moved between them like metal sharks, fast and deadly. Transport ships carried 50,000 elite Marines, all volunteers who had asked to be part of the rescue mission. Admiral looked at the tactical display in front of her. Every ship captain in the fleet was connected to the command network. Every Marine commander was ready. Every engineer had checked their systems 3 times. Operation Homecoming was ready to begin. General David Park stood beside the Admiral. He commanded all the ground forces for the mission. His Marines were the best fighters humanity had ever trained. They wore powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any normal human. Their weapons could cut through solid steel or stun enemies without killing them. They had trained for every possible situation. "Admiral, we're receiving final reports from all ship commanders," said Commander Sarah, the fleet's communication officer. "All ships report ready for quantum jump." Admiral nodded. "General Park, are your Marines ready?" "My people have been ready since the day we heard about the message," General Park said. "Some of these Marines have grandparents who knew people on the Endeavour. This mission is personal for all of us." The Admiral activated the fleet communication system. Her voice reached every person on every ship in the fleet. "This is Admiral speaking to all ships and all personnel. Today we begin a mission that will be remembered for the rest of human history. 400 years ago, brave men and women left Earth to build a new home among the stars. They trusted us to remember them. They trusted us to come for them if they needed help." She paused, looking out at the fleet. "Those people have been waiting 4 centuries for rescue. They're children and have lived their entire lives as slaves. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when someone hurts our people. Today, we bring them home." Across the fleet, thousands of voices cheered. In the Marine transport ships, soldiers checked their weapons one more time. In the engine rooms, technicians made final adjustments to the quantum drives that would carry them across space faster than anything had ever traveled before. Admiral turned to Commander. "Signal all ships. Begin quantum jump sequence." The quantum drives on 200 ships began to charge. Space around the fleet started to shimmer and bend. The technology that powered the drives had been developed over centuries of research. It allowed ships to fold space itself, crossing vast distances in a matter of months instead of years. As the ships prepared to jump, Admiral thought about the aliens. According to the message from Doctor, the aliens had ruled their part of space for a long time. They were used to being the strongest, the most advanced, the most feared. They had never met anyone who could fight back. They were about to learn something important about humanity. Humans did not forget their people. Humans did not leave anyone behind. And humans, when angry, were capable of terrible things. Commander looked at her instruments. "All ships report ready for jump, Admiral." "Execute jump," Admiral ordered. Space twisted around the fleet. Stars stretched into lines of light. The ships seemed to fold in on themselves and then disappear. In an instant, 200 warships vanished from Earth's orbit. The fleet reappeared in empty space halfway between Earth and... This was a planned stop, a place where they could check their ships and make final preparations. The journey would take 6 months, even with quantum drives. They would make several more jumps, each one bringing them closer to the enslaved colonists. During the journey, the fleet became a floating city. Scientists studied everything they knew about the. Engineers improved weapons and armor. Marines practiced fighting in low gravity and alien environments. Medical teams prepared to treat people who had been abused for generations. Doctor, the fleet's chief scientist, spent her time analyzing the signals from Doctor. Each new piece of information told them more about the aliens who had enslaved the colonists. They seemed to be a conquering species, Doctor explained to Admiral during one of their planning meetings. They find primitive worlds, capture the inhabitants, and force them to strip mine the planet. When the resources are gone, they abandon the world and find a new one. How do they fight? General Park asked. From what we can tell, they don't fight much, Doctor said. They're used to overwhelming primitive species with superior numbers and basic technology. They've probably never faced an enemy with advanced weapons. Admiral studied the tactical information. That gives us an advantage. They won't be expecting a real military response. During the 4th month of the journey, the fleet received another signal from Doctor. This one was much weaker than the first. The old scientist was still alive, but barely. The message was short and desperate. They found the radio, Doctor's weak voice said. They know someone sent a message. They're moving the survivors to punishment camps. Please hurry. I don't think we have much time left. Admiral felt anger burn in her chest. She called an emergency meeting with all ship commanders. Change of plans, she announced. We're not making any more practice stops. Maximum speed to, I want to arrive ready for immediate combat. The fleet pushed their quantum drives harder than they had ever been pushed before. Ships that normally needed maintenance breaks pushed forward without stopping. Engineers worked around the clock to keep the drives running at maximum power. 2 months later, the fleet reached the edge of the system. Admiral ordered all ships to stop their engines and drift silently through space. They were close enough to scan the system, but hopefully too far away for them to detect them. What they found was worse than anyone had expected. The planet where the Endeavour colonists had been enslaved was covered with mining operations. Huge machines tore up the surface, leaving behind ugly scars. Cities that had clearly been built by the covered the continents. And in orbit around the planet, a large fleet of alien warships waited. Count 60 ships, reported Commander. Most of them look like cargo vessels or mining ships, but there are at least 20 that appear to be military. Admiral smiled coldly. 20 ships against 200. They're going to learn why nobody messes with humans. She activated the fleet communication system one more time. All ships, all personnel, this is it. We've found our people. We've found the aliens who enslaved them. In 6 hours, we're going to remind the galaxy why humanity is not to be taken lightly. The human fleet moved through the outer edge of the system like silent hunters. Admiral watched the tactical display as her ships took their positions. They had no idea what was coming. All ships report ready for combat, Commander announced. Marine assault teams are standing by. Orbital bombardment systems are charged and ready. Admiral studied the enemy positions one last time. The ships were scattered around the planet in a loose formation. They looked powerful, but Admiral could see they were not arranged for battle. The aliens were not expecting a fight. General Park, are your Marines ready for immediate deployment? Admiral asked. General Park checked his communication systems. 50,000 Marines in full combat armor, dropships fueled and ready. Medical teams standing by to treat the rescued colonists. We're ready, Admiral. Admiral took a deep breath. 400 years of waiting was about to end. All ships, she announced over the fleet communication system. Execute Operation Homecoming. No survivors among the military forces. Protect the human colonists at all costs. Begin attack. 200 human warships suddenly appeared throughout the system. They had used short-range quantum jumps to position themselves perfectly for battle. The ships, caught completely by surprise, scrambled to respond. The first exchange of fire was decisive. Human weapons, developed over centuries of technological advancement, cut through shields like they were paper. Energy beams that could melt starship armor hit enemy vessels with perfect accuracy. The aliens' return fire bounced harmlessly off human defensive shields. Within 30 minutes, half the fleet was destroyed. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but human cruisers were faster and more maneuverable. The aliens had built their ships to intimidate primitive species, not to fight a real battle. Military command is attempting to communicate, Commander reported. They're sending surrender signals. Ignore them, Admiral said coldly. Continue the attack. The battle in space was over in less than 2 hours. Every warship was either destroyed or disabled. The alien cargo ships that had been strip mining the planet tried to flee, but human destroyers hunted them down methodically. While the space battle raged, General Park's Marines prepared for the most important part of the mission. Intelligence teams had identified the locations where human colonists were being held. Most were in mining camps scattered across the planet's surface. Others were in what appeared to be punishment facilities near the main cities. Marine teams, this is General Park, he announced to his forces. Primary objective is rescue of human colonists. Secondary objective is securing the planet. These aliens have held our people as slaves for 4 centuries. Today, that ends. The first wave of Marine dropships launched from the transport vessels. Each ship carried 50 Marines in powered armor, equipped with the most advanced weapons human technology could provide. The ships moved fast through the planet's atmosphere, heading for the largest concentration of human prisoners. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez led the first team to reach a mining camp. What she found made her sick with anger. Thousands of humans lived in metal shacks that barely protected them from the weather. They were thin and dirty, wearing rags instead of proper clothing. Many showed signs of injuries that had never been properly treated. But the worst part was the fear in their eyes. When the human Marines landed, the colonists thought they were new types of guards. They cowered and tried to hide. "It's okay," Lieutenant Martinez said, removing her helmet so they could see her human face. "We're from Earth. We received Doctor's message. We're here to take you home." An old woman stepped forward slowly. She was thin and bent with age, but her eyes were bright with intelligence. "Are you really human?" she asked in a weak voice. "Yes, ma'am," Lieutenant Martinez said. "We're Marines from the Earth Defense Force. We've come to rescue you." The old woman started to cry. Then she started to laugh. Then other colonists began to gather around the Marines, touching their armor, asking questions, unable to believe what was happening. "How many ships?" the old woman asked. 200 warships, Lieutenant Martinez said, and 50,000 Marines. The entire human race came to bring you home. Word spread through the mining camps faster than the Marines could travel. Colonists who had lived their entire lives in slavery suddenly understood that freedom was real. They helped the Marines find hidden prison camps and secret facilities where they had kept the weakest prisoners. General Park coordinated the rescue operations from his command ship in orbit. His teams had found over 2,800 human colonists alive. Many were in poor health, but they were alive. Medical teams immediately began providing food, water, and treatment for injuries and diseases. The most important discovery came when Marines found Doctor in a punishment facility near the capital city. The old scientist was barely alive, but he had somehow survived long enough to see his people rescued. "Are we really free?" Doctor whispered to the Marine medic who was treating him. "Yes, sir," the medic said. "They will never hurt humans again." But the rescue operations were only part of the mission. Admiral had other plans for the. As Marine teams secured the planet, human warships began systematic bombardment of military and industrial facilities. Weapons factories, communication centers, and government buildings were destroyed with precision strikes. The aliens' ability to wage war was eliminated in a matter of hours. The few ground forces that tried to resist the human Marines were quickly overwhelmed. Alien weapons that had been effective against primitive species were useless against human-powered armor and energy shields. The aliens' crude projectile weapons could not penetrate advanced human defensive systems. By the end of the first day, the planet was under complete human control. Civilians huddled in their cities, afraid to come outside. Their military was destroyed. Their leaders were dead or in hiding. Admiral received reports from all over the planet. The rescue was complete. Every human colonist had been found and was receiving medical treatment. The military forces had been eliminated. The planet's orbital defenses were under human control. But Admiral was not finished. "Signal all ship commanders," she ordered. "Prepare for Phase 2 operations. We're going to send a message to every species in this part of the galaxy." General Park appeared on the communication screen from the planet's surface. "Admiral, we've found something you need to see," he said. "The colonists have been keeping records, written histories of everything that happened to them. Names, dates, locations. 400 years of documentation about what they did to our people." Admiral felt her anger grow even stronger. "Send me everything, General. I want a complete record of every crime these aliens committed." As night fell over the planet, human ships continued to arrive. Support vessels brought supplies and equipment. Medical ships prepared to transport the sickest colonists to Earth for treatment. Engineering ships began planning to build a permanent human base on the world. The rescued colonists gathered in the camps that had once been their prisons. But now the camps were surrounded by human marines instead of alien guards. For the first time in 4 centuries, humans on this planet fell asleep without fear. Admiral stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking down at the planet where her people had suffered for so long. The space battle was over. The rescue was complete, but Operation Homecoming was not finished. Tomorrow would bring justice. 3 days after the battle, Admiral received a communication from the surviving leadership. They had been hiding in underground bunkers beneath their capital city. Now they wanted to negotiate. Admiral met with General Park and the fleet's senior officers in the main conference room of the S Retribution. The holographic communication system activated, showing 3 leaders sitting in what appeared to be a damaged building. The aliens looked different from anything humans had imagined. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. Their movements were slow and careful. When they spoke, their voices had a strange musical quality. "Human commanders," the lead said, "we wish to discuss terms for peace. We did not know your species was capable of such military force. We can reach an agreement that benefits both our peoples." Admiral looked at the alien for several seconds before responding. Her voice was calm and cold. "You had 400 years to show mercy to our people," she said. "You chose not to. Today, you learn what humanity thinks of slavers." The leader seemed confused. "But surely reasonable beings can negotiate. We offer to release all human prisoners. We will provide compensation for any harm done. We will agree never to enter your territory again." General Park laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Release our prisoners. We already freed them. Compensation. There is no compensation for 4 centuries of slavery. Stay out of our territory. You don't seem to understand your situation." Admiral activated a display showing the planet's surface. Red markers showed where human forces had taken control of every major city, military base, and industrial facility. "Your military is destroyed," Admiral said. "Your government is eliminated. Your industrial capacity is under our control. You are in no position to negotiate anything." The leaders looked at each other with what might have been fear. "What do you want from us?" the lead alien asked. "Justice," Admiral said simply. Over the following days, human teams searched through records and facilities. What they found was even worse than the original message had indicated. They had enslaved dozens of species over thousands of years. Entire civilizations had been destroyed to feed their need for slave labor and resources. Doctor presented her findings to Admiral and the command staff. They have been doing this for at least 3,000 years, doctors said. They find worlds with primitive, intelligent life, conquer them, and force the inhabitants to strip mine their own planets. When the resources are exhausted, they abandon the worlds and move on. She activated a star map showing the local region of space. We've identified at least 40 worlds that show signs of strip mining operations. Most are now dead planets with no remaining life, but some might still have survivors from other species. Admiral studied the map. How many other species are still enslaved? We're detecting signals from at least 6 other worlds, Doctor said. Populations that might be in the same situation our colonists were in. The Admiral made her decision quickly. General Park, prepare extended operations. We're going to visit every world in space. We're going to free every slave and shut down every mining operation. But first, they had to deal with it themselves. Admiral ordered all surviving civilians to be gathered in their capital city. Human Marines surrounded the area, but they did not harm the aliens. The Admiral wanted them to understand what was happening. Standing before thousands of civilians, Admiral read a statement that was broadcast throughout the system. For thousands of years, your species has conquered and enslaved others. You have destroyed entire civilizations. You have treated other intelligent beings as animals. Today, this ends. She gestured to the human ships orbiting overhead. You are no longer a threat to anyone. Your military is destroyed. Your government is ended. Your territory is now under human protection. Any attempt to rebuild military forces or to threaten other species will result in the complete destruction of your civilization. The civilians listened in silence. Many seemed shocked that anyone would dare to speak to them this way. You will be relocated to a single world under human supervision, Admiral continued. You will live there peacefully. You will never again leave that world without human permission. You will never again harm another intelligent species. The relocation took several months. Human ships transported the surviving population to a distant planet with adequate resources for them to survive, but no materials they could use to build weapons or spacecraft. Human monitoring stations were established in orbit to watch them permanently. Meanwhile, rescue operations expanded to other worlds. Human fleets found enslaved populations of 6 different species scattered across former territory. All were freed and offered assistance in rebuilding their civilizations. The rescued human colonists faced difficult choices. Some wanted to return to Earth immediately. Others chose to stay on the planet that had been their prison, but now as free people with human military protection. Doctor lived long enough to see the new settlement established. The colonists elected him as their first free governor. In his acceptance speech, delivered from a hospital bed, he spoke words that would be remembered across human space. We came to the stars 400 years ago to build new homes for humanity, Doctor said. We suffered, but we survived. We kept our humanity even when our captors tried to break us. Today, we are not just colonists. We are the founders of humanity's and strongest world. The planet was renamed New Endeavor, honoring both the original colony ship and the courage of the people who had survived. Within 2 years, it became one of the most heavily defended worlds in human space, with permanent fleet bases and marine garrisons. Admiral returned to Earth to a hero's welcome, but she did not stay long. The success of Operation Homecoming had revealed that the galaxy was full of species that preyed on others. Humanity decided to do something about it. The Admiral was given command of a new type of fleet. Explorer ships worked with warships to map unknown regions of space. When they found enslaved populations, they freed them. When they found aggressive species that threatened others, they stopped them. The message spread quickly through the galaxy. Humanity was not just another species trying to survive among the stars. Humans protected those who could not protect themselves. Humans remembered their friends and punished their enemies. Most importantly, humans never abandoned their own people. 5 years after the rescue, the human fleet had grown to over 1,000 ships. New colonies had been established on dozens of worlds. Alien species that had been freed from slavery became allies and trading partners. The former territory became known as the Protected Zone. No aggressive species was allowed to operate there. Ships that entered the zone looking for worlds to conquer found human patrols waiting for them. Admiral, now promoted to fleet commander of all human space forces, kept a picture on her desk. It showed Doctor cutting the ribbon at the opening ceremony for New Endeavor's first free school. Children who had been born into slavery were learning to read and write as free humans. The picture reminded her why Operation Homecoming had been necessary. It reminded her why humanity had to be strong among the stars. The original SOS signal had taken over 4 years to travel from to Earth, but the response, when it came, had changed the galaxy forever. Humanity had learned an important lesson from the rescue of the Endeavor colonists. In a galaxy full of dangers, humans would never again allow their people to face those dangers alone. The next time someone threatened human lives, they would find the entire human race ready to respond. And that response, as they had discovered, would be swift and absolute.